We don't hit home runs on this podcast. We work station to station. I'm back with Rob and Quinten, and we've let the offseason settle a little bit. And we're going to talk about where the Jays are at, some players they're linked with, and maybe who they should sign. Rob, I was wondering if you had some deja vu with a certain big fish that the Jays have been quickly linked with this offseason.
Yes, total deja vu.
Times two.
What's that saying? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. I'm going to try not to get caught up with the whole hype of Toronto trying to sign Juan Soto. Would he be a good fit? Yes. Will he pair well with Vladdy? Yes. Will it be a great signing for Toronto? Yes. But do I think it's going to happen? I don't think so. I think he's going to cost way too much money. And I think it's just Scott Boras is just going to use Toronto again as a leverage so he can get a bigger payday through the Mets.
Okay, so yeah, it's definitely deja vu from last year, and it's kind of the same kind of setup in terms of the scheduling for the meetings. The Jays are first, and last year was the Dodgers, but this year the Yankees are last, and the Mets are second last, and that's probably part of strategy, right? Like just to kind of get some offers on the table before you meet with like the big boys. So I would love to see him here. Like last year, I wasn't like too caught up in the hype. I was thinking like, okay, maybe it would be possible, but like to commit that much, what the contract turned out to be like a pretty hefty contract for that long term, like it could handcuff the team like in the future. But this year, I think like after last year having a mediocre season as the Blue Jays did, maybe they need to like, just be aggressive and like try to work it out somehow, some way.
Let's fantasize for a moment. Let's put Rob's fool me twice.
That's what this is, really, fantasy, right? Because
well, we're fans. We can fantasize with this stuff. Let's say the Jays are, let's say they found the Ohtani money again, and they're gonna give it to Soto. No deferrals. You get load of cash. How do you guys think he would actually fit on this team? Like where would he play? What would you have to do to kind of make sense of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think he would just right field is the only place that he could play, which leaves the Springer situation. I guess you try to trade Springer or, somehow get rid of it or get a team to eat some of his contract. Or, and I think I brought this up to you, Alex, is do you potentially try to put Springer as your first baseman? You move Vladdy to third, and maybe that solves a couple of your issues. I mean, Springer had a really bad offensive year, but maybe he's going to come around. Maybe he's not going to be as physical on first, right? So I don't know, just an option. But I think Soto is the only option he can do is play right field.
Left field, no option for Springer. I don't recall him ever. He's played center.
No. I mean right field for Soto. Springer, no, I don't think Springer can do anything other than right field, or like I said, maybe first base, maybe DH, but that's a lot.
I think if you move Springer to left field, like first off, I do think that Rob is correct in that Juan Soto has to play in right field, right? Like he's not defensively the greatest, and in fact, we saw in the World Series, I think it seemed like every game he had an overthrow, right? Like he seemed to be, he's not the best in right field defensively, but obviously what he brings offensively is possibly generational. I don't think he fits in left field because there's too many righty bats, and so I think you have to put him in right field. Do I think Springer can play left field? I'm a bit more confident than you, Rob, that he could play left field, but I do think that it just hamstrings the Jays more, because if George Springer has another season where he's not performing at the plate, like really, I want to bring another left fielder in, right? That I think that's a corner out. The corner outfields are they're the obvious positions you bring in bats. Do you know what I mean? And flipping a guy who can't hit over to left field is like, and maybe he gets back a little bit this year, but I'm not very confident on that's gonna happen.
Yeah, this is assuming Varsho is a center fielder, right? He's gonna be the guy this year, center field.
Yeah, I think he will be.
Defensively, there's no argument.
No, and he did. We didn't mention off the top, but Dalton Varsho didn't win his first Gold Glove ever, which I think
well deserved,
a little bit overdue, well deserved, and I do think he's going to slot in center field. And last year we had a center fielder who was great defensively who couldn't hit, and it sounds like we're going to have another one this year. I always hope that Varsho can turn it around, but I think at this point, I don't know. It just seems like the die is cast with him. But Soto, so we've kind of all agreed that he's probably a right fielder, and the Jays would probably have to make some moves to allow for him. So Rob, I think you gotta, if Rogers is going to pay the money that it's going to take to sign Soto, I think you need to be able to pay the money to offload Springer and pay his contract as well.
Yeah, I mean I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like, as options. I mean, the reality is I think the Jays need help everywhere. I mean, other than maybe first base because you have Vladdy, shortstop because you got Bo.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. You need help everywhere. So maybe you have to move some pieces, move one person here, like you said, Vladdy the third. I mean, I suggested that at the beginning of last season, is maybe he solves the third base problem, right? It looks like now they might even revisit that, but then who's your first baseman? Spencer Horwitz, right? So maybe you move some pieces around, or if you're going to spend the money, like you said, Alex, you're going to spend the money on Soto, then maybe you spend a little bit more money to have another, eat some of Springer's contract and offload him.
I think you have to. Like, I don't think you can like have like a player like that come in and then like you get this kind of jumbled, kind of move, musical chairs kind of thing. I just don't think that works. Now, I did want to talk about how assigning like Soto, like how that affects the team, right? We've kind of gone in the offseason saying, number one priority is re-signing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. There's absolutely zero buzz or talk about that right now. And all the talk is about, the Jays are in for Juan Soto. Quinten, how do you think Soto would have, how does he affect the Guerrero situation?
I don't know if he comes here unless Jays commit to Vladdy long term. I think that's got to happen first. I think that's the X factor they have over the Yankees, over the Mets. Like whatever the Jays put in front of Soto, like the Yankees will just match it or outbid them. Like we saw last year with Ohtani with the Dodgers. Supposedly the contract with the Dodgers was the framework put in by the Blue Jays, and basically the Dodgers offered him like something very similar, if not the same contract, and that was that. So I think Vladdy might be the X factor in terms of like luring Soto over, because who wouldn't want to play with Vladdy, right? Like, you see what he brings to like the locker room, his personality, his name, and we see how he played last year, the latter half of the season. So I think like they got to secure Vladdy just before they can get serious about landing someone like Soto and maybe even other free agents if they want to be a contender and compete with the Yankees.
And I think that's where the Jays kind of screwed themselves, because they don't have Vladdy signed. I don't think Juan Soto is going to come here unless Vladdy signs. I don't think Vladdy's going to sign unless Juan Soto comes. I think.
So what do you do have Vladdy management?
Well, I think to me, I think you sign Soto, and then you figure out the Vladdy situation after the free agents, like after the year or somewhere midterm in the year.
Yeah.
I think Vladdy is more. I think Vladdy is more committed to Toronto, that he would stay here with. I think you could trust him to stay here once you sign Juan Soto, more than saying, okay, we're going to sign Vladdy and then Juan is going to come here. Because I think even if they sign Vladdy tomorrow and then they say, hey, Juan Soto, we signed Vladdy, now do you want to come here? He'll still might be like, I don't know. I think I'm still going to go to the Mets because I'm getting more money there. Where, like I said, if you flip it around and you sign Juan Soto, but the thing is Juan Soto going to come here if Vladdy doesn't sign, right? Like, that it's the Jays' fault.
To me, it seems like another situation that's been mismanaged, right?
Exactly.
The second half of the season, everybody, we had lots of time to talk about Vladdy extensions and what they're going to do. And it was pretty consistent that you heard, why is this still a question? Like, this should have been dealt with years ago, right? And it should have been dealt with years ago.
But I gotta raise a question. I got something to say. What player has actually signed earlier than their free agency? Do you know what I mean?
Well, Ronald Acuna Jr. did. But there's a lot of guys that there's a window where you can approach them, where basically they're not in their arbitration years yet. The whole thing doesn't get away from you, right? And there's a window. And I think the problem is that the two bozos that are running this team,
so they missed it. They missed the window.
They missed it, right? They clearly, they did the deal with Bo to buy out his arbitration years, which is nice, but Bo wasn't willing to go into his free agent years, right? And we don't know exactly what was being talked about and whatever, but I really find it hard to believe that, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wouldn't consider signing a deal. Now, he might say, no, I'm going to wait for my value, but it also might be, I'm not sure that you guys actually know my value either.
You got to think how lucrative for Vladdy would be to just let the season play out, have a year anywhere close to last year, 2021, maybe play somewhere at third base and go into free agency, coming off a good year, third baseman, first baseman, DH, have that versatility and go into free agency. You got to, what's going through his head? Is he
Well, if we want to talk about numbers, it was reported today. So Juan Soto is looking for a 12 to 14 year deal.
Yeah, long term.
So long term, but hold on, there's a caveat here. So worth about 45 a year. So that brings
that's crazy.
Basically a range of, it's insane, Rob. It's a range of 540 to about 630. So I think that depends on the amount of years that he gets. I think that's actually the starting point, to be honest.
So he's not going to do 10. It's got to be 12, 14.
12, yeah. But here's the caveat, Quinten, is that he's looking for opt-outs in year 3 and 4. So that year 3 and 4, because he's what, 26 now, I think. Year 3 and 4 essentially brings him to the point of most free agents, because most free agents are about 29, 30. So he essentially would have an option to say, hey, I might go back to the market again. These are the numbers that are being, reported. It was a Spanish language reporter that came up with this. So I don't know how accurate they are. I would probably say that they're probably a starting point.
Yeah. I mean, he would have the say in it in that deal, I'm assuming, right? Because I don't think most players would want to sign if that's a deal, then you just sign for 3 years. But if he would have to have that final say after the 3 years, right?
I may not have been clear. It would be a player opt-out, essentially.
Not a team opt-out, a player opt-out. So
yeah, okay.
It's whatever he wants to do. Yeah.
So, I mean, if he's which is scary because he can be I'm playing like crap, and it's oh, well, you're still going to pay me, right?
Yeah. Or he's playing really well and he says, well, I'm going to opt out and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then what do you,
especially if they're not contending. Yeah.
Well, and bringing this back to reality, I just don't know how a player would sign with a last place team, especially after last year. And with all this uncertainty around the team. That's why I just don't really see that it, I don't see that it's going to happen, obviously. And I think there's going to be a variety of reasons. Rodgers might put up similar money to the Mets, but why would you sign with the Jays when the Mets were, they made it to the, NLCS, right? And this just doesn't really make any sense to me, but
Vladdy, imagine that lineup: Vladdy, Soto,
Bo. This is why I think this is a PR stunt.
Well, yeah. Well, last year it could have been a PR stunt too, but like you said, fool me once.
So I think last year, I think they realized. I think Ohtani and Soto are different players. Well, of course, they're different human beings, so they have different interests. But I think Ohtani being, I know Soto's not an American player, but being Japanese, I think he probably was I like more, okay, let's see what these guys have to say. It's a different country, where I think Soto probably is a little more focused on the US and the money that he can get paid there. Like he kind of just seemed to fit right in New York. Do you know what I mean? Like he just seemed like it almost like he'd been playing for the Yankees for a few years, because he just seemed to be like he seemed to be in the right place, and I think that's probably where he's going to end up.
Yeah, not to mention Hal Steinbrenner, what's his name? Steinbrenner's son,
yeah,
Hal Steinbrenner.
Hal, yeah.
He's stated like their priority is to re-sign Soto. That's like their number one. That's coming from the owners, so that's some competition there.
Well, Ben Nicholson-Smith was on Foul Territory maybe last week, and he made the point that if the Yankees don't sign Soto, like there could be kind of like a bit of a internal crisis, kind of like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, because they gave up a lot for Soto. They probably and listen, they're one of the finalists, right? So he still may end up in New York, and in the Bronx, I should say. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Jays are just going to be in on everybody.
Yeah, just like every year.
That's the kind of their way that's the way they kind of operate right now,
to make themselves look like players and just to create attention. Hey, look at us! Like, we'll pay him, we'll pay that guy, we'll make offers, and just to be relevant.
I would rather build a team where players are like, I'd like to be a part of that, right? I'd like to see them build a team where players across the continent, Caribbean, wherever, take notice and say, yeah, like I want to be a part of that. And I just don't think we have that team. And, that's down to its leadership though. So,
yep.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some possible free agents. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about some free agents. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of categorize them, a splash the cash, right price, and take a flyer. So Quinten, why don't you start? Throw me some players that Rob and I can, we can banter about a bit here.
Okay, well, the first player is obvious, Juan Soto. He's like the big name in free agency right now, and the Jays have made an offer to him or a presentation of some type, which they say was impressive, but it would be a game changer to sign a superstar like that and have him and Vladdy batting 2, 3, 4, wherever in the lineup. Like it turns him into a contender, I think. So that's my number one. And I did have Alex Bregman as number two.
So he's your splash the cash number two option here.
Bregman, yeah. I think I'd have a permanent third baseman, something we've missed since Chapman, last season. And Bregman, I think he can bring more to offensively than Chapman could. So, and he's won World Series, has been successful. It's something a lot of the guys on the roster for the Blue Jays can't say. So, to have a guy like that, veteran presence as well, I think it'd be an asset, and I think it'd be worth a significant contract. 30 years old. He's not super old by any means. And number three, Corbin Burns from the Orioles. He'd probably be a higher price guy, probably demand a large contract, but to shore up the starting pitching and to add him to the core three there. It's not to mention to remove somebody from a division rival. That's always, satisfying in a way. So yeah, he's my number three for guys to pay, guys worth the money.
All right, so let's go to your next category.
Okay, for the right price, couple of familiar names. Teoscar Hernandez, if somehow he can
nice
be true to that love to the six and come back and play with his old amigos again. I'd say for the right price, plug him into left field again, and we've seen what he can do now for a competitive team. Playoffs, he had some key hits in the World Series, so to have a guy like that, for a team that's meant to be contending next year, it'd be a definite asset, I would think. But I don't know, he might have a new home in Los Angeles, though, so I wouldn't get too excited about that one. I had a different catcher for number two, but he was just signed, so I took him off and I put Danny Jansen on because
Danny Jansen.
I think Kirk could use a tandem. Like, it's not just because Jansen's a former Blue Jay and knows the pitching staff, but like, he's okay offensively, better than he was early in his career, and like he's definitely a good defensive catcher, and he knows how to call a game, and has a good rapport with pitchers. So, yeah, Danny Jansen's my number 2, and I got Anthony Santander for my number 3 for the right price. Like he's a guy who can like really do things. He's got a lot of pop. He drives in runs, which is something a lot of guys didn't do last year for the Jays, or at least not with or not at key times. So might be a high price. So right price might not happen, but he's just a name I thought of. Okay, Flyers. Okay, this one's kind of out there. Aroldis Chapman.
Okay, I like it.
Older guy. Still, he's a big man. Still throws hard. He'd be like an intimidating presence to come out of the bullpen, maybe as a setup guy, or I think like the price could be good on him, maybe. So that's one. And I got Paul Goldschmidt, first baseman, but I don't know if Vladdy's going to play more at third base this year, but potential DH as well. He's coming off an off season, like not a good year. So I think the price could be good. He's, I think, 37 now. If you get him for like, a bargain deal, then he might be someone to look at. I just think if you're gonna sign Justin Turner at the age he was at, like, why not Paul Goldschmidt? And last guy I have is JD Martinez. He might demand a lot, I'm not sure, but I was just thinking like a good guy to have off the bench, DH. I don't know how effective he is or how realistic he is in the field, but I don't know, just a name.
I like a lot of your picks actually. I don't actually have too many on my list that are similar, but I am nodding along in agreement. Rob, thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with. I'm not going to necessarily go in the same order, so I might just jump all over the place with this one. But yeah, Anthony Santander, I think I would for the right price as your left fielder. I also feel here is always like a Jays killer. So if he does well,
another division guy to bring over a division guy.
Yeah. So if he does well, like if he hits well in Rogers, then let's bring him in. Is Pete Alonso? Is he a free agent?
He is. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He had some heroics in the playoffs.
So yeah. So I mean, him as as a first baseman, and then Vladdy over to third. I would like to, that would be somewhere, where you could spend some money. Willy Adames, as the shortstop or second base, because I've been hearing that, he would potentially move to second base, or even Bo might be willing to move to second base with Willy as shortstop.
Bo loves shortstop. He wants to be a shortstop.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tough one.
I mean, but will he suck it up? I mean, if LA Dodgers were like, hey, we want you, to play second, would he say no to that? I don't know. I don't think he would. Blake Snell and Blake Snell as a pitcher. Like to see him. When you get another starter, then we have maybe some opportunities where you would put some of the prior starters in as relievers. So, because we definitely need relievers. I think those are pretty much my picks. Danny Jansen as catcher, having him return. Oh, and then Teoscar and Danny as former Jays that always did well as Jays.
Those are your sentimental picks.
Would we see them back?
It's a little selfish of me for Danny Jansen as well, because I still have 2 Danny Jansen jerseys from that giveaway day that came in the glasses. I still have them in the closet, so like they're kind of outdated now with him. So if he comes back to the team, then they'll become valid again. So it's also for selfish reasons.
I would want Jansen just because, Alex, you know how I feel about Kirk. So I've got no faith in that, no whatsoever. So I mean, do we need a catcher? Of course we do. But I mean, hopefully I'm proven wrong this year. So Danny Jansen and Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, he always had that good relationship with Vladdy. So maybe that you bring those two together again. But I don't think Teo wants to leave LA.
Yeah, why would he? Just coming off a World Series championship.
Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
Like, look who he's playing with. Superstars, Otani and...
Yeah. So,
Mookie. Like,
I mean,
come on.
those are sort of my picks.
All right. Well, there's definitely some overlap on that list to mine. In terms of splash the cash, I think I don't know. I there was one player that obviously we already talked about that is he's the one player that I'd splash the cash on. I kind of had, given the format that we're doing here, I had to kind of justify and put someone else. My pick was Blake Snell. Rob, you talk about when you're playing poker and when the table's playing one way, you want to play a different way.
Yeah, the opposite. Yeah, aggressive table, play conservative, play aggressive. Yep.
Exactly. So we know we need bats, but you know what? Instead of maybe going for some lower kind of options for a starting pitcher, why don't you just go all in on Blake Snell? Gosman has a year left. Bassett has a year left, and then you have Barrios, who's going to be
2 more years.
I think he has an opt out. Yeah, he's 2 more years, and I think he has an opt out. So that's something that you could plug in, and I think significantly improve the rotation. Not a guy who logs a lot of innings, so we'll see how that goes. But hey, the Rogers Center is now a pitcher's park, right? So maybe he'll last a bit longer.
It's safe to say that Bowden Francis, like, it's his job to lose as well as like a 4 or 5 guy in the starting rotation. If he has a good spring, I think
I would hope so after last season, right? Like he just pitched so well.
Yeah, if he could just continue into next season, that solves some problems.
For sure. And I do think Yariel Rodriguez slots back into the bullpen reasonably well. Like I don't know if he's quite ready to be kind of
a starter.
Top of the road. Like he can start, but
yeah, he was just inconsistent. He had some moments, but he was inconsistent.
Yeah, he's got some work to do. That's fine.
And that's what I mean by when you get to Blake Snell, like you can even move one of those guys to the bullpen because you need help there. So you put the Francis, you put the Rodriguez in the bullpen. They can be a long man. If Blake Snell can't, last, 4 or 5 innings, then you have those guys as your long man. So, I mean, I think, yes, another solid starting pitcher, I think solves a couple of the problems.
What's the price tag though?
Well, it's a big price tag, and I still don't know. Like their goal is to be around the same payroll as they were last year, and I have no idea how that's going to happen if they're going to have this huge off season. I just don't know. Mathematics just don't make sense to me unless there's some outgoings.
Just Juan Soto alone, like unless they have a deferral plan. Like I don't think anyone's signing for that deferral plan that Ohtani signed for, where he's making $2 million a year.
But Juan Soto's not going for deferrals. I don't think. I think he wants his money.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. That's pretty a unique contract that he has, Ohtani.
Yeah. So I also, in terms of splash, Corbin Burns, I would do that as well. And then I kind of bumped up this player from right price to splash, and that was Anthony Santander. I think big bat. I think right now, if you had no other changes in the outfield, I think you'd put him in left field. He is more comfortable in right, but I think you can move over to left.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's going to fit well with the Jays. I think the Jays want him. I think he's looking for like a 5-year contract or something.
I haven't really seen any numbers on the Santander one, but it's a tire that has to be kicked, I think. And you know what? He's a player that they was even talked about last season. So
yep.
All right. So my right price, and this is another player that I moved around. My right price was Willy Adames. At first, I had him in splash the cash because I like Willy Adames. I actually think, Rob, I would move him to third base. I wouldn't move him to second. I would move him to third base, take care of that. But I moved him to right price because I asked myself, if you're gonna put that much money out for Willy Adames, why didn't you sign Matt Chapman? Because they're very similar players. If you look at them, in fact, Matt Chapman probably a little bit better. Now Willy Adames is 2 years younger, but I kind of moved him back to right price, and so that probably rules the Jays out because there'll be some other players or some other teams, Braves, Dodgers. I think are all going to be are probably going to overpay. Willy Adames, really good player. The one thing about Willy Adames that I like too is that everybody talks about him as he is like an excellent human being. Like he's really good to be around. He's
good in the clubhouse, a good leader,
really good clubhouse guy, and these are the kind of players, like when you're building a team, it's the kind of players you need, right? This isn't a team that is adding a player to get over the edge. We're still trying to figure out and build this team. So Willy Adames, right price. I also put down in my right price category Max Kepler, another corner outfielder, lefty. I said right price because he had a bit of a down year last year. So I think he's probably looking for a pillow deal. One of those 1+1, nice opt out after one. And I think, you could do something like that with Max Kepler. And I have Tyler O'Neill, Canadian Tyler O'Neill, also right price. I think he fits well in that category, and that it's not a player that I'd want to overpay for, but he's got some pop, can play the corner outfield, and I believe he's a lefty as well. So another player that I think the Jays could look at. Might take a flyer, Paul Goldschmidt. I'm on the same page as you, Quinten. I think it's the biggest take a flyer. Like the name, when I was going through the list of free agents, like the name just jumped off the page, right?
Yeah, it just pops out of you. I'm like, hey,
right? Like he was
bad this year, but
he was bad, but he has a reputation of being a good player, right? So do you expect him? Is he going to get better? No, but can you still get something out of him for a year? I think you can. Can he be better than Justin Turner?
Most likely.
Most likely, I'd hazard to guess, most likely. And I feel bad because Justin Turner started so well, and then he just hit a wall. And I feel bad because I think Justin Turner was just, he seemed like a really salt of the earth human being that just didn't seem to work out. I also have take a flyer. Maybe right price, but Jock Peterson probably won't come here because he seems to like the being out west. But he's another lefty. He would be one of those guys that would not be able to play the field. He's a designated DH, but he's got some pop in his bat. And when he does play, he's generally productive. Generally productive player. So yeah, these are the guys that I would be interested in. I don't know. Yeah, I said Willy Adames is one that kind of jumped out to me that I'm like, I think this could be a really good fit. But as I said, I kind of pulled the reins back. I was like, why, if you're going to spend the money on him, you should have just signed Matt Chapman 2 years ago.
Well, it's also different team, different situation. Like I wasn't sad to see Matt Chapman go, and I don't know if I would want to see him back.
His hitting was just, his batting average was just so low.
It was. And the thing is, I feel 100% the same, Rob. I was not upset to see Matt Chapman go at all, but if you line up his numbers against Willy Adames, they're almost identical. Like they're guys that hit in the 240s. They strike out a lot. They hit a bunch of bombs, and they can play some solid defense, right? And Matt Chapman, I think his WAR was a bit higher this year, but that's probably also because he was out in San Francisco. I think that's a bit. He hit a lot. He hit a bunch of home runs in a stadium that is not traditionally a very home run friendly. But yeah. So I did see there was a rumor today that kind of perked my interest because I did bring this up a couple years ago, and I don't think there's any truth to this, but there's a rumor that the Jays are going to trade for Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, I saw something about that. 2
trade deadlines ago, I had a fantasy land trade. Rob was on the podcast, and my fantasy land trade was to trade Matt Chapman, and it was a salary dump. Trade Matt Chapman for Nolan Arenado, and kind of part of the joke was that they were high school teammates, right? So they played high school ball together, and so I was like, oh, I'll just
Yeah, you were very passionate about that.
Yeah, and it was like pure fantasy. But it would be funny if Nolan Arenado ended up here. I don't know if it's a good move for the Jays. Like I think he's on a lot of money, and he has 2 or 3 more years left, I believe. Yeah, it's one of those ones that, like, you're gonna be kind of gritting your teeth a bit, hoping that he's not going to be an expensive dud at third base.
Could turn out bad. You never know. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, it could be. It's one of those ones that could be really, really, like, it could go very badly. I think it's almost one of those ones that's like, so do we put him at first to try to, like, maybe try to change the pace of this? And I don't know. I worry when the Jays start making these kind of reflex kind of moves, and I don't know. I don't think the last few off seasons have not treated Jays fans very well, and we'll see. I don't know. Well, maybe they can strike gold. Maybe they can strike gold, and we'll see. We'll see what's going on.
I want to put something out there. Just thinking. I'm just kind of gonna go sideways here. But if you had to choose between either signing Vladdy or signing Juan Soto, you only get one or the other. Who do you take?
Vladdy.
I say Vladdy. He's the face of the franchise, and the ages are about the same, but like I think he brings more. So yeah, I'd say Vladdy.
Okay.
Like, Vladdy can ask for $45 million a year. He ain't gonna get it. But I don't know. I would say Vladdy. But I think also part of the reason why Jays fans want to sign Vladdy so much is, like, he's likable, right? Like, there's a built up likability there.
Well, like Quinten said, he would be the face of the franchise.
Yes, exactly.
He could be batting 100 and you still can't not like him. Like, he's just too likable. He just brings too much to the team in the clubhouse. Like,
born in Canada, like, he fits.
Yeah, he's part
Canadian.
Canadian.
The mold. Yeah.
All right, well, gentlemen, one of the off-season signings last year, he had a little message for Jays fans. I'm going to play this right now.
What's up, Blue Jays fans? How you doing? Kevin Kiermaier here. Look, I'm 2 weeks into retirement, fresh off a World Series, happy as can be to end my career going out like that as a champ. 14-year pro career, a lot of ups and downs, but it was the best journey I could ever ask for. I learned so much about myself, other people, so many things. What a journey. Part of that journey was my 1.5 years in Toronto. Let me focus my attention on the Blue Jays fans because I love you people. I love you so much. The way you treated me from the get-go, what a dream. What a dream to be in that situation and be viewed the way I was viewed in Toronto by you people. Nothing but love for you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. As a player, you just want recognition for, how much you care and how much effort you put in out there. And I always say I'm not the best player on the field by any means, but it was going to be hard to outplay me or outcare me. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for the way you treated me and my family. What an honor, what a privilege. And, I don't want this relationship to end with the Jays, so I got a lot more to offer. I don't know what that means just yet, but I can't wait to be back in the Rogers Center. And, whatever way I can help the Blue Jays, I'm going to do it. But thank you, fans, from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys. Thank you. Go Jays.
So the question I have for you, Rob, that Quinten posed to me is, does Kevin Kiermaier really love Blue Jays fans that much, or is he hoping for a job down the line or next year?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think he laid it on a little bit too thick. There was already rumors of him kind of coming in as some sort of a coach or something, whether it was with the minor league team, or maybe as a regular defensive coordinator or something. So, it sounds like Toronto probably will hire him as some sort of a capacity. I think that's just his way of laying it on just a little bit, laying it on thick. Did we really like him that much? I don't know. Maybe a lot of the ladies liked his eyes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are his eyes just enchanting like Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro? Like, are they still like
they're hypnotic?
See that guy's eyes? Wow.
Yeah, we're going to keep them just so we can get the ladies in the Rogers Center.
That's how you got the extension.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Would he be an asset? I don't know. I guess so, as some sort of a coach. But yeah, I think he laid it on just a little bit thick. But it kind of sounds like he's going to have some sort of role with Toronto.
Why not? Maybe an outfield coach.
Yeah.
Help the guys with diving catches.
What about something in like from more front office ish? Like, because it's not like he's going to be a hitting coach, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he was never a player that was that great offensively. But no, I guess we'll see what happens. But I was wondering if like maybe maybe he transitions to more of a front office kind of somewhere in the player development department or whatever.
I could see him as a broadcaster, even Sportsnet.
Yeah, but you can't see his eyes when he's broadcasting, right?
Yeah, that's true. He's more of a front facing, people want to see him. I mean, you know what, whatever the role is, whatever's going to help Toronto, whatever's going to make people come to Toronto. I mean, I'm sure there's worse hires you can do besides Kevin Kiermaier. So
Don Mattingly.
Oh, there we go. Quinten going for the throat.
That was a disappointment.
Did you guys know that Don Mattingly stat, that like just a random Don Mattingly stat about his grand slams?
No, go ahead.
It's the most craziest thing. He's got 6 career grand slams, and they happened all in the same year. I think it was 1986, 87.
Really?
He's got 6 grand slams. They were all in the same year. Every other year he played, 0 grand slams. All 6 were in 1 year.
Wow.
Is that one of the most insane stats you've ever heard? Like, it's just,
yeah, that is very odd.
That is pretty crazy.
It's really random, but like,
did he have any games with multiple grand slams? It's like, is it even more weird than we were even thinking?
I don't know, but it's just, it's 6 in that 1 year, and that's it. That's his whole career.
Do you guys have anything to add?
I think the Jays can't hesitate much in terms of free agency activity, just because we saw what happened last year. They signed Ohtani, and that didn't happen, and they kind of just filled in holes. So I think they really need to like get productive like quickly, just to see where they're at and move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they do something. They have to do something. If they don't, I think we're going to be in a world of hurt next year. So, I mean, the winter meetings, I guess, are coming up, or they're happening now. So hopefully things will happen. But I'm not really holding my breath for, any big splash.
Yeah, I believe Scott Boras stated that he wants to have something done with Soto before the winter meetings. That's their goal. That's their timeline.
Okay.
So that's what they're saying. So something's got to happen somewhere for some team.
The 2023 into 2024 offseason, I think has to be one of the worst in the club's history. And I don't think it's that hard to have a better offseason than last year. Like and if it's anywhere near what they did last year, it's going to be bad. It's going to be very bad. But I think there is some motivation on everyone in the front office to they're gonna spend some money. Is it going to be is it going to be money well spent? We'll see. But I do think they're going to spend some cash, and we'll see who they bring in.
I think it's important just from a marketing standpoint. Never mind success in the field. Like after last season, if they just spin their wheels again and put the same product out next year, like are they gonna get like the same amount of fans in the seats? Like just from a marketing standpoint, they need to give something for us to be excited about, a reason to come out to the park, and just whether it's a big name or what have you.
Well, Liz always would talk about that there's a tail on attendance with the Jays. So like if they're, good in 1 year, the next year they'll kind of have good attendance. And then when they're crap 1 year, that will that tail will come into the next year, and beyond. And how do you change that? Well, you have a good offseason. You get people excited. Like when Alex Anthopoulos was the GM, he seemed to be able to pull off some offseason trades where you're like, oh, at least you got excited about things, right?
Like 2013.
Yeah, was that the Jose Reyes?
Jose Reyes.
Yeah.
That
huge trade with Miami, yeah.
Melky Cabrera, R.A. Dickey, all that excitement. It didn't amount to anything. Like, they had a horrible season, but it got everybody excited. World Series favorites for a short period of time.
All right, boys. Let's wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining me.